Record. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of You Do You, Hun. I have a very special guest with me. I have the lovely Megan from Pregnancy to Parenthood, which was formerly known as Bump Birth and Beyond. Megan is a registered midwife in Kent. She's got 5 years experience in all areas of maternity. She's a mum to nearly a 2-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
teaches antenatal education in her free time. So the reason why I've got Megan on is because me and Andy went to her antenatal class, absolutely loved it, still meet up with the mums now. And I thought it'd be really interesting to hear from you, Megan, because this is a whole different world coming into this space. And there's so much you don't know. And there's loads of things people talk about, and you think, what is this? And then you come on these classes, and I'm like thinking about how terrified Andy was when he was on the classes. And then where he got to at Labour, literally, Megan, you would have been really, really proud of him. He stayed down the other end the whole time. I don't know why, but he did it. So we've got you on, Megan. Welcome. You can say hello.
Hi, yeah. I'm Megan. As you said, obviously I live in Rainham. I live with my husband. Yeah, my almost 2-year-old, which is still so surreal, and our dog Winnie. And as you've said, I'm a registered midwife, and have been for 5 years. I work in East Kent at the moment, but I'm relocating in a couple of weeks to Medway, so be more local to home. And yeah, I've got experience in all areas of maternity. So community, I was a community midwife. I've done antenatal, labour and birth, and I've been a postnatal midwife as well. And obviously, yeah, as you've said, I also do antenatal classes. So yeah, busy, busy, busy.
So what I want to ask you is, from all of them different elements of being a midwife, what's your favourite?
My favourite is labour and birth, I think.
Oh, why
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that?
I don't know. I think it's just because you get that one-to-one aspect of it. I really like sort of getting to know the families, getting to know the couples, and obviously no labour or birth, that no two are the same, so they completely vary from person to person. So yeah, it's just having that opportunity to really bond with a family, get to know them, build that trusting relationship, and obviously be there for that moment where they welcome their baby into the world, which is obviously a
Oh.
very special sort of memorable moment.
And it's crazy to think about it, because you have now become so important in
Yeah.
that person's life, the parents, the couple, the single person, whoever, because they will never ever forget you. Like, you'll go on, you'll keep doing your thing, and you'll be in lots of births, and you might remember a few of them, but probably not everyone. But like, you're so special in that person's journey, so that must be lovely.
Yeah, yeah, it is nice, and yeah, I'm one that loves to chit chat as well, so I get on quite well with a lot of people, so it is nice to be that sort of person that, yeah, they do go on to remember, and hopefully for a good reason.
Yeah, exactly. Not like, oh, that Megan, oh, she was awful. So what
No,
made you become a midwife?
honestly, I'm not sure. So obviously, I did school, I did college, and I was still sort of at that. Oh God, I don't really know what I wanted to do with my life. But as part of my college course that I did, I had to do a placement in a nursery. And in the nursery, they actually had a community midwife that was based there. So I was seeing all the antenatal and postnatal women there, like you did yourself when you go to
Mm.
your appointments. And it just got me thinking, really, like thinking a bit more into it, like what do midwives do? What is the role of the midwife? Because it isn't just delivering babies, it's not just being in the hospital and doing that sort of thing. It obviously does um really vary from sort of antenatal right through to postnatal. So did a lot of research into it, sort of thing. I thought, well, actually, this is something I could really be interested in. And I did spend some time with that community midwife, and actually decided, this is for me. And it was only really when I started the degree and started the course and going out into the hospitals and doing our placements, that I thought, yeah, this is my calling. This is what I
Ah.
need to do. So here we are. So I've been qualified for, or sort of a registered midwife for 5 years, but obviously the training is for 3 years. So
Mm.
really, I've been doing it for about 8 years. So it
Mm.
really does fly. But yeah, it's just all about, I love caring for people. I love supporting people. And I love obviously educating people, hence the
Mm.
antenatal education that I do. But it's nice to be doing all of that whilst being able to bring life into the world.
Mm.
as well.
Yeah, oh, that's so lovely. Because I was literally just about to ask you, what do you like about it? And I think that there'll be so many people on this podcast that will listening to this podcast right now that will think, what a lovely thing to do, bringing someone, someone's baby into the world. But then there'll be another lot of people that go, I couldn't think of anything worse.
I
Like,
get
I never
that a
want to
lot.
go
I
to
do get
hospital
that.
ever again.
Yeah, I do have some people go, how do you do that job? And
Mm,
sometimes I do ask myself the same question because
yeah.
you do have days, harder days. And obviously, unfortunately, not all pregnancies do end the way that we want them
No.
to. So it does have its moments as well, of course, but we can still do that caring and do that supporting and being there for their families, sort of no matter what the outcome, and still be that special person that hopefully they remember going forward as well.
Mm, mm. What do you think somebody needs to be a midwife? What kind of characteristics do
I
you
think
think?
I think you need to be quite sort of quite easygoing. I think you need to sort of
Mm,
be open to whatever really, because literally quite you know, you could get anything or
mm,
anybody that sort of comes through the door. Every pregnancy is different, every family are different,
yeah.
every birth is completely different. So you need to just sort of be really sort of relaxed. Obviously friendly, being able to have a good
Mm,
conversation, good communication, and just yeah, just have the empathy there as well.
mm,
It's nice to be able to relate. I mean, obviously my little one's two, so the first sort of 5, 6 years of my training and being a midwife, I didn't have a child.
mm,
So as much as I can still be the caring, supportive midwife, in some cases it was hard to relate because
mm,
I'd never been in labour before. But I think now I've had my now 2-year-old.
mm.
Um,
Oh,
I can also sort of relate. I can sort of say, I've
mm,
been there, I've done it, you can do it. And I think that can make women feel a lot more sort of comfortable as well, knowing that
mm,
you've been there and you've got through it. And I think that, yeah, that definitely
yeah.
helps for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, because I do think, if you're there for quite a long time, you're building that relationship with midwife. I do think a part of you, if you know the midwife hasn't had a child, you might be thinking, oh, like how are you gonna help me through this? Because we do like to speak to people who've been through a journey, don't we? We need to know that we're gonna get through it and get to the other side.
Yeah,
But I agree what you're saying. It's about having empathy, and you need to break down barriers quick, really, with people, don't you?
yeah.
Especially, antenatal, postnatal, which yeah, I think midwives do quite well.
Yeah, definitely. I know loads of midwives that have not had children and they are
Mm,
fantastic midwives. It's all
mm,
about just being an advocate for that
yeah,
one as well and sort of getting to know them really quickly, knowing sort of what they do want, what they don't want, what
yeah,
their preferences are, so you can be their advocate and you can sort of support
mm,
them. And if you know they really don't want an epidural, for example, then you know that you need to
yeah,
support them in other ways and yeah, sort of put your hat, your sort of other option
mm,
hat on and just try and
mm,
discuss all other sort of okay, what should we do instead then? So it's all about
mm,
just really advocating and being that supportive
mm.
person in the room, really.
Oh, I love that. And that's what like me and Andy really loved about your class is the fact that, you didn't really come with any agenda. Like you wasn't, hyping on about breastfeeding or bottle or, you should do this or this is the labor you have. You was very much letting us explore all options and saying, this is what will happen. But remember, like you can decide, you can choose what you have, and it was about consent and options. I can't remember the acronym that we went through, but we will come into more about your classes. But it's true, isn't it? I think that a lot of us do forget sometimes that, that is something that, it is painful. Let's be honest, it is. Some
Yeah,
people say it's not painful. It's what's the other word they use? For hypnobirth, and I can't remember. Surges. There is surges.
yeah,
Um, but it does depend person to person, doesn't it, really? But I loved that your class was very much like that because you do worry you're going to go in and someone's going to say, do this, do that. And then what if you don't have that labour? Already you feel like you failed before you've even met your baby. That's
no,
horrible.
no, yeah. And I think a lot of it is about, in this sort of day and age, midwives, we're there to sort of um we want you to know all your choices, all your options, so that then you can make informed choices about the care you receive. So many women or families were coming into the hospitals, sort of more so around the COVID time, where there wasn't a lot of antenatal education, and they were clueless, to be honest, about
Mm,
pain relief options. They had no idea of the induction of labour process, for example. And then
mm,
you're sort of then questioning, okay, is this care then ethical? Because you
Mm,
don't know your options, you don't know your risks. So it's really all about informed decision making, and that's what we're here to do as midwives. Is we want to give you all of your options and let you make the choices
mm,
around your care, knowing the
mm,
sort of weighing up the benefits and the risks and things like that.
mm. I think that's lovely because I think that probably really helps with reducing trauma because
Mhm.
there are a lot of people that do have like traumatic births and I think, you know, speaking to a few people, they come away and they say, I don't know what happened there. Like I don't know why I had that and I don't know why it went down that way. No one explained it to me. No one told me. It was all very rushed and I would have liked to have been heard a bit more. You know, you hear all these stories, don't you? So
Yeah,
you were very much about that, about being informed consent and asking questions. And Andy was actually very good at doing that for me,
yeah.
because I could barely talk by some stages. But you do need it, don't you? You do need to know that you're in control as well when you feel like anything but in control.
Definitely, definitely, I
Mm,
agree. And I think a lot of these families that do come away a little bit traumatized as such,
mm,
quite often those that um didn't get the choices or weren't aware
yeah,
of their options and things and sort of just went along with it. And it's only afterwards that you sort of think, hang on, like, was there
mm,
other options? I'm not
yeah,
sure, kind of thing. So, we're there to just do the education. Like I say, make sure you know all of your options and choices, the benefits and the risks,
mm,
and then you can make your choices based on all of that. And as
mm,
professionals, we sort of say, well, we would advise this sort of
yeah.
this option, but
It's
it's
down to
your
you.
body and it's your choice, so it is all
Mm,
down to you. Yeah.
mm. So I thought I'd add this one in. I don't know if anything is going to come to mind straight away, but is there something that's well known to midwives that's not known to us, the members of the public or to parents to be? Putting you on the spot a little bit here, but is there
Yeah.
anything you're very well aware of, but we're not?
I would say some families probably are aware of it, but I think something really important to know is that obviously birth doesn't always go to plan. So we see
Mm,
lots of people coming in with sort of set birth plans, which are lovely, and I'm not discouraging them, but it's just about being very open-minded, I think, and coming in with your birth preferences, but being open-minded to the fact that things can deter from that and things can change
mm,
within a matter of seconds, really, and our babies very much dictate how our birth and
mm,
labour goes. And things can change really quickly. So it's just all about really being open-minded, and just being wary of that, I guess, because we do
mm,
see some people that aren't really aware that that can happen and are then obviously extremely disheartened when things do change and the birth plan sort of
mm,
then has to change in response. So it's just, yeah, about being really sort of open-minded about how your birth and labour is going to go. And as you know, throughout pregnancy, even so, you could begin being very low risk and things can
yeah,
up in your pregnancy,
mm,
throw a little spanner in the works as such. So it's
yeah,
about being quite open-minded and being flexible. If, for
mm,
example, if you're low risk at the beginning and you're sort of cleared for a birth centre or low risk unit delivery, but then things change and they prefer
yeah,
you to be on the delivery suite, that's fine. As
yeah,
midwives, we can facilitate what would feel fairly low risk birth, but on the labour ward, we can make a lot of
mm,
changes um, to your surroundings and your environment to make sort of it as comfortable as possible. So yeah, I think it's really important to be open-minded, but communicate with your midwife and tell us what you want, and we'll be able to do our best to facilitate it as much as possible.
mm. I love that. And I think that's really important to highlight because I think, especially as a new parent, you are very anxious about any change in general. And I remember the pregnancy was the same. So at one stage, it was that I was going to be a higher risk of getting preeclampsia. So then I had to take aspirin every day. That wasn't a problem. That was absolutely fine. Baby didn't get it. I was fine. Then the next, as we were getting right to the very end, I developed strep. Um, Inside of me. I don't know how best to
Group B
explain it.
strep, yeah, group B strep, yeah.
Yeah, group of shit, but not I didn't have it. My vagina did, basically, everyone. This is something I didn't know. So I didn't have it. My vagina fucking had it. And this meant that if Anderson, poor fucking Anderson. So if Anderson was coming down, my vagina, I could basically give it to him by birthing him.
Yeah.
So obviously that's very dangerous for new babies to have. So then that meant that I just had to have antibiotics straight away when labor started. So that meant he didn't get that. But all of these things, you're like, fuck me, what is going to happen next? Like, what does this even mean? But I remember getting a phone call that I've got strep and I just cried. And I just felt like this is such a
Oh,
big deal. And I
yeah.
felt so
Because it's
impacted by
hard.
it.
It does feel like that when you get a phone call,
Mm,
doesn't it? If you've not really got,
mm,
if they don't sort of discuss it as such, and it
yeah.
is, this is what you've got, it can feel like that. But
Mm,
it just shows, okay, you needed to have
mm,
antibiotics, but
it's fine.
you still sort of
Yeah.
had a normal birth and
Yeah.
everything's
Fine.
well. So yeah, it just there are just so
Yeah.
many different elements that can pop up in your
Mm,
pregnancy that can
mm,
sort of throw a little spanner in. But
yeah.
I say as midwives, we're there to sort of facilitate your
Mm.
wishes the best we can. So
Mm. I know,
yeah,
I think that's really helpful because I think I like the way you said like little spanners in the works because I think what we do, we catastrophize and we think this is a huge deal. We think the worst case
yeah,
scenario
have a
because we're
second.
anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're
And
out of control. But actually it's okay and it's something we can work with. And
yeah.
something I did kind of know from being in this space is that there's just so much you can do. Like
Mm.
you midwives are just so like Andy was calling you baby doctors because you are. You're basically doctors, but for babies. Like there's so much you can do, and like there's so much knowledge. And even when I was in the hospital and there was other people, and I thought, oh wow, like this seems to be a high risk situation for them. It wasn't. It was very much like, just keep drinking. Like we'll monitor you. And I was like, whoa, you
Yeah.
know,
You've got to
it's
remember,
very interesting.
as midwives, we do this every day.
Yeah.
Deal with, although I'm saying sort of every birth, every person is completely different. Generally, all of these little spanners, as such, are things that we do deal with sort of on a daily or weekly basis. So it's not uncommon. It's not
Mm,
very often that something comes through the door that we've never seen
yeah.
before. So, and obviously we do work in that multidisciplinary team with the
Yeah.
anaesthetists, with the doctors, with
Mm,
specialist midwives, like diabetic specialist midwives and things.
mm,
So we all do have sort of them multidisciplinary handovers or meetings, so we can discuss your care and make sure that sort of, yeah, your care is
mm.
specialized to you and person centered, and that your labor and birth can be as close to what you want as possible.
I like that. So good to know. So, because we're talking about labour, what
Hmm.
would be your top tips to get through labour? I know that's such a loaded question because every labour is different, but if there was some like top 5 things you would say to someone just before they're about to give birth, what would you say?
I would say, and I'm not just saying this because I teach education, but
Yeah.
I think it's about being prepared. And like I've mentioned before, it's about knowing your options, knowing what's available to you. So attend antenatal classes if you can, whether they're NHS ones or privately sort of run, just because they cover all elements. They cover right from healthy eating and drinking plenty right through to your postnatal period. So they cover sort of everything, cover labour and birth, induction. I think it's really important to just be prepared as much as possible for everything that could happen really. So in terms of what pain relief options would you like, what positions are good for labour, what snacks are ideal for labour, little things that you might not think about, because quite often we do see women come through that haven't even opened a book, haven't spoken
Mm.
to anybody, they've just rocked up and they're going to just wing it, and that is fine. But I do think in some cases it is good to know your options and choices. Have a birth preference list and put it in the front of your notes so that when you arrive, you or your partner can say to midwife, right, here are my birth preferences. This is kind of the birth I would like, whether that's a water birth, whether you want to be on all fours. We want to know what you want. So like I say, we can try and facilitate it. So definitely try and have a birth preference list. Consider hypnobirthing. It's not for everybody, but some people, swear by it. And we do see it in the hospital. So don't sort of feel like, oh, I'm not going to do that because they might laugh at me or they might not take me seriously. If you come in and say, I am hypnobirthing, then we'll go along
Yeah.
with that as well. So just it's all about communicating really well with your midwife, letting us know what it is that you're doing, what you want us to say, what you don't want us to say. And I think as midwives, we very quickly can gauge a room. We know
Mm.
the kind of woman that wants to be spoken to a lot. reassured a lot, offered pain
Mm.
relief, or we quite quickly can gather whether you're a woman that just wants to sort of get on with it and you want us to just be present but not present, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So we can very quickly gauge a room. All
I think
right.
that's so interesting that you said that, because my midwife was like exactly who I needed her to be. Like I couldn't have had a better midwife. She was like so me. Like
Yeah,
she was encouraging, she was motivated, she was saying to me, "Go on, girl," and then she was saying
yeah.
things like, "Have you done this before?" And like, when I was pushing, and like she was exactly the person that I needed. And if I could have written a midwife, it would have been her, sort of thing. So it's fascinating that you said that.
Honestly, we can gauge a room and we
Mm,
just adjust um our approach, I guess,
mm,
depending on that person. Because that midwife you had the next day may
mm.
have gone into a room who, uh,
Yeah,
I don't know, didn't want all of that. And that
yeah,
midwife would have sort of retracted and just been a lot more of a silent midwife, I guess, and just
yeah.
sort of been there and let the woman do her thing. So, yeah,
Mm,
we can gauge very quickly the kind of midwife you want us to be and adjust our
mm,
approach so that, again, we can make your experience sort of as pleasant as
mm,
and like you want it the best we can. Yeah.
mm. So how do we get through them contractions then? Them lovely contractions.
However you feel you need to. So whether that's
Okay.
moving around, pain relief, hypnobirthing, whether you want your affirmations sort of read
Mm,
to, printed off, stuck on the wall, however
mm,
you feel you need to get through them. There's no right or
mm,
wrong way. And like I say, some women may well be happy sort of just laid on a bed, breathing through them. Other women manage them more when they're marching up and down the room or in a birthing pool. So it really is dependent on how you want to or how
mm,
you're most comfortable. Everybody deals
mm.
with them completely differently.
So true.
There's no right or wrong way. It is.
No, no, you're completely right. And I do think, and I was actually talking to the mums of our class before I came on this episode with you, and I was asking them, what do you think we should talk about? And a lot of these questions I'm asking you and topics are from them, which
Yeah.
is great. And they spoke a lot about how the fact there's a little bit of competition between parents, what kind of labor did you have, did you have pain relief, did you not, are you doing breast, are you doing bottle? And actually, like, we all decided and we all thought about, it doesn't matter, like it really doesn't matter. Like the baby still comes to you, the baby still comes into the world, the baby's still fed, but there does seem to be this huge pressure. And I do think it's women putting it on women, because you don't hear men talk like that. Men aren't going, "No, I want you to do breast," or "Why are you doing bottle?" or you
Yeah.
know you should go without any pain relief. It's not something they talk about. So this is a women issue, and I
Yeah.
don't know why we do it.
No, I don't know, but I think it's not just sort of labor and birth and being a parent that we do it too,
Yeah,
is it? It just seems to be a woman thing, unfortunately. But
yeah.
sort of as we covered in our way back in week one, I'm not
Mm,
sure how if you can remember, but we cover how important it is to sort of almost train our brains on the run up to labor and birth to only be thinking positively. So
mm,
when labor and birth is coming up, and straight away your friends or friends of friends or
mm,
cousins or whatnot, they want to tell you, oh, my friend's cousin had
yeah.
this happen, or my
Mm,
sister's friend had this happen. And it all sticks in our brain, at the back of our brain,
mm,
and it will all come to the forefront when you arrive at the hospital, when your contractions start. So it's really important on the run up to your labor and birth to shut all of them negative thoughts out, and you need to just retrain
mm,
your brain to think positive.
mm,
Google sort of positive birth stories
yeah,
and things like that, rather than EastEnders or One Born Every Minute, because
yeah.
it's not real life.
No.
It's dramatized for the telly.
Mm,
So it is really important to not compete against each other and actually support each other. Um,
mm,
I had a really good experience, or, my midwife was really supportive,
yeah,
or I did this, you should try
yeah.
it. Just really try and boost each other, because reality is, it is a journey, and we all
Mm,
need to sort of back each other on that journey and
mm.
bounce off each other rather than compete against each other.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think there does seem to be this pressure with parents that doesn't leave, and mum guilt. Wow, that's a serious thing, isn't it? Mum guilt. Oh
And
my goodness.
I don't think it ever leaves.
No, and someone told me that, and I was like, oh no, because I was, getting anxious about if, making sure the mayonnaise was right mayonnaise that I was eating, and yeah, I
Yeah.
think the next one I'll be more chilled, definitely. But you are anxious, and you are reading guidelines, and I was sticking to them verbatim, but bearing on mind what we've just said about good birthing stories and things like that, is there any particular couple that are in your mind, or a particular experience of birthing, or a particular labor that you've always held on to, or you remember quite vividly because of a particular reason? um
Um,
any
I,
good birth story?
I've had lots and lots of
Okay.
positive, good birth experiences.
Ah.
But, the two that sort of come to mind are very similar in a sense. So,
Mhm.
a lovely couple I looked after more recently. Um, she come in very prepared, so very
Mm.
organized, very prepared. You could tell she'd sort of done her research. I don't think she'd attended classes, but she'd done a lot of
Okay.
research and spoken to a lot of friends that actually had positive things to say rather than want to compete. But yeah, she knew her stuff, she knew what she wanted, she was very calm, very relaxed.
Mm.
Again, as we speak about in week one of our course, as you remember
Yeah.
probably, is how important oxytocin is on the run up to
Yes.
birth and labor. So
Mm.
um obviously she and how important being relaxed is, because if you
Yeah.
are tense, your adrenaline will kick in instead.
Mm.
That is what we don't want. We want your oxytocin, but your oxytocin won't flow if you're stressed and anxious. So what we need on that run up is you to be nice and relaxed, so your oxytocin's flowing. And she arrived really relaxed. I think she was doing
Okay.
done some hypnobirthing
Mm.
techniques. She was doing her breathing techniques. But she was very in her zone. She was very zoned
Mm.
in. So I turned to the partner, her birthing partner, for the communication aspect.
Mm.
Birth
Yeah.
bubble. She was very tuned in to her body, and I didn't want to sort of disrupt that a little bit. So it's really important birth partners know what
Mm.
you want as well. So
Mm.
but yeah, we communicated really well. I sort of tuned into what she wanted.
Mm.
And she went on to have a really nice water birth, which is
Mm.
actually, it was all sort of very straightforward, very low risk. And she, afterwards, sort of when she sort of come out of that sort of zone,
Mm.
she was so thrilled with herself. And yeah,
Oh.
she was thanking me, and I was saying, absolutely, I can't take any credit for
Oh.
it because she did it all
Mm.
herself.
Mm.
Um,
You
and
do go into a zone though, don't you? You do.
that,
You do. So I
yeah.
wasn't even listening to like Andy and the midwives talking. I was just somewhere else. I was high as a kite at one point. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I was floating. But
Yeah.
there we go.
But obviously that's a really good
Mm.
sort of experience that I had, sort of being sort of low risk and straightforward. But again, more recently, I've had a couple who they ended up having a C-section, but they had a beautiful labour, beautiful sort of yeah. She laboured beautifully. She did everything she wanted. She was moving around, which she wanted. She only had the pain relief that she wanted. Her labour was very much in her control, and it was just unfortunate at the very end that her baby's positioning wasn't as optimal as her body would have liked, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why it resulted in a C-section. So I just want to highlight here that it's not always the outcome,
Mm.
you want, but you can still look back and say, actually, my experience was really pleasant, and I actually did have everything that I wanted. I had my pain relief, or I did
Mm.
my breathing techniques, or I was nice and relaxed. All of that sort of thing can still happen, um, even if it ends in a C-section, for
Yeah.
example. You can still look back and think my experience was still a positive one.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Definitely. And it's all about the baby, isn't it? It's about getting that baby. And, I kept telling myself over and over again, like, I'm gonna meet my baby. I'm gonna meet my baby. Like, and when his head was out and they told me that, I thought, oh my God, it's gonna be minutes, like seconds now. And I was like, oh, the relief, like to be out of that sort of thing. So yeah. I came out and I was like, I'd do that all again. So it can't be that bad, can it? And I kept walking around the hospital going, I'd have a zoo now, honestly. Like everyone must have been really annoyed with me. I think it was just adrenaline and like you're hyped up, and I think the oxytocin was flowing.
Yeah, and even sort of a C-section process, even though they're classed as emergency C-sections,
Yeah.
because you're in labour, you can still have a really positive C-section.
Mm.
All of the staff all obviously work fantastically together. We can play playlists, we can play music
Ah,
in the theatres just to make it feel as sort of as relaxing as it
yeah.
can. It is quite a daunting environment.
Mm.
Ultimately, as long as you're communicated with and
Mm.
facilitate everything else you want, like delayed cord clamping and skin
Yeah.
and things, we can still do, even if things result in a
Yeah.
C or an instrumental delivery. So yeah,
Mm.
it's all about, rather than whether or not the baby was birthed from the vagina, or whether he had a C-section, it's
Yeah.
all about your experience that counts. So you
Yeah.
can still have everything you want and a positive experience
Mm.
from having a C-section, for sure.
And I think that goes back to what you were saying about, one born every minute and, soaps and things like that. And when you think of an emergency C-section, I can see it in my head. I can see someone on a bed, they're being run into theatre. And obviously that does happen sometimes, but I think that's what you think about. You think it's very fast, but you don't see that, like you said, like the music. I remember someone saying to me, we had the radio on and we were singing to Westlife. And, it can actually be quite a nice experience. It doesn't have to be as daunting as, say, the media portrays it to be. So thinking about, the labour that's been and gone, what would be your best advice for a new parent in general?
I would say, so for a new parent, so sort of getting home with baby and things like that. So I would say it's an obvious one, but rest when you can. And it's about
Yeah.
accepting the help. So I think as women,
Mm.
we're strong, we're independent, we want to do it all. It's our
Yeah.
baby, and that's normal. You've just birthed that baby. You don't want anybody else around, but it's really important that you do accept the help, whether it's from your
Yeah.
partner, the midwife, the
Mm.
feeding specialists, or family. If you're having a day where you are exhausted, surround yourself with people that are supportive, even as
Mm.
simple as they might not even have to help you with the baby, but if they can do the food shop for you or
Yeah.
make you dinner, it's little things like that. Especially
Mm.
when you're trying to establish the feeding, whether it's breast or bottle, you might not want to leave the house. So it's important about surrounding yourself with people that are wanting to help you do other things besides hold the
Mm.
baby. As
I
lovely as
love that.
they're your baby, you birthed them.
Yeah. You want them.
Yeah, you should be doing the holding of
Yeah.
the baby, and but
Yeah.
expect help from other people to do other things. The
Mm.
washing. If your friends offer to do the washing, fill your boots, do my washing.
Mm. I love it.
So many of us don't. So many of us don't.
Mm.
And I remember being so stubborn when I had my little one. No, I can do it all. I can manage. But you do burn out. You will, eventually it will get on top of you. So it's important about, accepting the help, taking it slow as well. So them newborn early days, they really don't last forever. So it's about embracing them for what they are. And don't rush the process. Don't sort of look ahead and think, oh, I can't wait until, just take
Mm.
in what's happening right
Mm.
now. And, the sleepless nights don't last forever.
Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
like that one.
yeah, and every hurdle, that you'll get over. It's just about being patient with yourself, but enjoy it, really
Yeah.
enjoy being a new parent and
Mm.
in your sort of baby bubble, I like to call it.
Mm.
That sort of, because it's the same with sort of paternity leave, for example. Like our birth partners don't have endless
No.
time off, do they? The reality is they have to go back to work
Mm.
eventually. So it's about enjoying that time as sort of a baby bubble before they go
Yeah.
back to and reality
Mm.
kicks in and it's back to sort of normal and you're trying to establish
Mm.
a new sort of day-to-day routine. So definitely enjoy it, embrace every single aspect, and just take it every day as it comes.
Mm.
Make sure if you need the support that you ask for it.
Mm.
So whether
Mm.
that be from your midwife, so obviously once you've had baby, and once you get home, you'll have visits from
Mm.
your community midwife, you'll have their contact numbers. So if you're sat at home with questions that you're sort of really wanting to ask, or you've got any concerns, generally the hospitals are 24/7, so you can
Yeah.
give them a call. Or your community midwives, they obviously work all day, so you can contact them. And I know Medway also have feed and support specialists that I
Mm.
do community visits. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of support out there that can help you with just general sort of questions about being a new mom,
Mm.
things like that.
And you're not alone, are you? I mean, you're not the first person to experience this or to feel lost or to feel like you're not connecting with your baby, for instance, and to not feel that you're doing enough or because you'll feel guilty or whatever's going on. And I think it's really reassuring to hear what you're saying about, just take the help if it's being offered to you, whatever that looks like, but also ask for it if you need it. Because, me and Andy used to say this thing very early on. We said, don't be a hero. So that what I think with that is, if one of us was more tired than another, one of us would say, look, I'll do the feed tonight, you just rest. And then like one of us would try and be a hero about it, go, no, 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 I'm fine. So we just look at each other and go, don't be a hero. And that was our way of going like, look, just take time. I can see you're wiped. And you need that, right? You need that support. I think it takes a village to raise a child. I really think it does.
100%. And yeah, it just there's so much support out there, and I just think
Mm,
it's important to surround yourself with them, with sort of supportive people, and I think this is another good thing with pregnancy to parenthood is obviously you
yes.
you have that support network. Generally all of your due dates are sort of
Yeah.
similar, weeks
Mhm.
apart, so it's really important, I think, to have support networks like this. I mean, some people are lucky enough to be pregnant at the same time as
Yeah.
friends or family, so you're bringing up your little ones together, but not everyone is. So it's
Mm.
nice to have support networks like this. So you sort of go through the pregnancy phase together, have babies together, and then you enter that postnatal phase
Yeah.
together, and you can bounce off each other. And it's just
Mm.
about, oh, my baby did this, did your baby? Or,
Yeah.
no, this, my little one's doing this now. And it's
Yeah.
just about bouncing off of each other, bouncing tips,
Yeah.
ideas. For example, I know you guys, just before
Mm.
I left your WhatsApp group, were talking about the jabs,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
being things like that as well, isn't it? Like the
Yeah.
first jabs, it's scary, it's
It
daunting. You
is.
want a baby to go to a doctor's surgery for
Yeah.
injections, and it was nice to see you guys like, oh God,
Mm.
tips. What
Yeah.
did you think? Yeah, so it's really important to
Yeah.
surround yourself with people that you can bounce off of, and no one,
Definitely.
and it's just about, yes, being supportive and
Mm.
sharing what you know and what you.
Mm. And I think it's like a chain reaction. Like once someone says about how they've been feeling or how what's been going on, then a lot of people start to open up. So this morning we've been talking about feeding and, not getting enough, getting too much, the weight, one of them went and got their baby weighed and was a little bit under and, how that felt. And a lot of us then resonated with that and said about our experiences. So it really does help to have that community. But this is a really good time actually to tell us all about pregnancy to parenthood. You've been giving us little snippets. Tell us everything, Megan.
So, pregnancy to parenthood, it was known as Bump Birth and Beyond. We've just recently rebranded and changed our name. So, you may still, at the moment, there's just a slight overlap of the two. So, you may see both names still out there,
Mm.
but we are going towards pregnancy to parenthood. So it's an antenatal course. It's 5 weeks, totals of 10 hours. And we cover everything. So the first week tends to be about preparing your body and mind for labour and birth. So it's all about oxytocin, how important it is to be relaxed, how important it is to be prepared. We talk about having, like, writing your birth preferences. Week 2 is about getting into labour. So we talk about natural ways to induce labour. So how important it is to get baby in a really good position. Then we do cover all the options of induction of labour as well. So
I really enjoyed this bit.
really good, I remember. So all the different options, and it's just really nice then, because if you have to be induced, you then know what the options are, and you've heard even just the lingo or the names of things. So when the doctor says, "Oh, we're going to do this," you can think, "Oh, okay, I know what that is."
Mm.
We cover pain relief options in week 2 as well. Then week 3 is all labour and birth, so it really is everything. So we touch on sort of what we expect progress to look like throughout labour.
Mm.
Um, and we do talk on sort of about natural normal labours, but then we also discuss forceps. We
Yeah.
mention ventouse, and we do mention C-section. So
Mm.
from the feedback I get from the courses, a lot of people like this session because we'd like to keep it real. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
really don't know how well your labour or birth is going to go. So it may well be that it does end up in C-section.
Mm.
This, you know, this session is quite interactive. Like we do the demonstration of who's going to be in theatre with you. So I think that's quite a good eye opener for you guys, isn't it? To sort of see just how many
Yeah.
bodies you find in the theatre. So it's not
Mm.
overwhelming if you end up in there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess if you did see all of them bodies, you'd immediately think that something's wrong and like you're like getting in a state or something bad is happening. You would, wouldn't you? All of these people rushing in. But actually, when you physically do it, someone's lying on the floor and, you know, you get each of us to come up and you see how much we surround the bed.
yeah,
It does look very overwhelming. But now we know that we're prepared.
yeah, exactly. It's just sort of that's normal. Everyone's got a role to do and everyone's there for a reason. So I think, yeah, I get a lot of feedback of, okay, that's really good to know, and it's really good to see just how many
Yeah.
bodies are around. In week 3, we also cover sort of tearing and things like that
Mm.
as well, just so you can be mindful of that if that happens. We do touch briefly on complications at the end as
Mm-hmm.
well, so like postpartum
Yeah.
hemorrhages, shoulder dystocia, we just brush over, and it's more just so that you know the terminology. So
Yeah.
if
If
it's
you hear it.
if they're saying, oh, you're having a hemorrhage, you sort
Yeah.
of think, okay, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Or if I say mention shoulder dystocia, you guys have a bit of knowledge behind that. We don't
Mm.
cover them in excessive amount
No.
of, because we don't want to sort of then put
Mm.
your mind, but it's more of a knowing the terminology and things if it's mentioned to you.
Mm.
Um, then we go on to week 4, which is all about feeding. So we cover breastfeeding, bottle feeding, expressing, storing milk, sterilizing, all of that sort of stuff. And then final week is all about caring for a newborn. So we cover
Yeah.
sort of nappy changes. We get you actually on the dolls and the nappies, which is good fun. Get you
Yeah.
dressed with these. And bathing the babies as well. And we just
Yeah.
discussed what kind of things newborn. So what type of rashes are normal and not normal. Um,
Mm.
what to do about the cord, because a lot of people are
Yeah.
not sure of what to do about the cord that's left on, and some people weren't even aware that you have a cord left on. So yeah,
Yeah. I
on
never
how
knew that. I never knew that. I don't know what I expected, but I just thought they cut it right off. I didn't know it'd be hanging.
a
Like,
lot.
yeah.
It's mostly the birth partners that are a bit like, what on earth do we do
Mm.
with this? So we do a little bit on how to care for the cord.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
Yes,
helpful.
it's a 5-week, very thorough course, but I
Mm.
keep it quite realistic. So it's run by registered midwives that
Hmm.
actually
Which
work
I loved.
in the hospitals. So we've got sort of a frontline sort of view on how things are, and if things are changing, we can obviously incorporate
Mm.
that into our classes. It's obviously all evidence based, so
Yeah.
everything we teach you is what happens in real
Yeah.
life, you know. And yeah, we're there, like I said to you, I said right at the beginning, we're there to inform you, give you all the information you need to know, and then you can do with that whatever you need to do. So whether that's
Mm.
pick bits that you find useful and
Yeah.
incorporate it into your preference list, and then you can go in and, you know, find the process of labor and birth a lot more sort of manageable, really, and you
Yeah.
can feel more relaxed going in because you know what normal progress is,
Yeah.
or you know what your options are with pain relief.
Mm.
But in that moment when someone's saying to you, have you thought about your pain relief options?
Yeah.
You're thinking, God, no,
Yeah.
what are my options? You know,
Yeah.
yes, I know these are my options. I would like to avoid this, but I'm open-minded to that, you know. So it's all just about having all the information and then doing with it what you want to.
Yeah. Really
What
like that.
is one of my favorite things about pregnancy to parenthood is that we have what we set up a WhatsApp group on week
Hmm.
1. And I'm also in that group, so you'll have your
Hmm.
registered course leader in the group. I share lots of videos and tips. You know, if I see anything new, anything evidence-based, or videos, demonstrations, anything like
Yeah.
that, I pop them in the group. But it's a safe space for you
Mm.
guys to ask us questions, ask each other questions, recommendations. So if you've attended sort of a really good yoga session, you can say,
Yeah.
oh, I've just done this, you should do it, you know. And that group carries on. Well, it's there then for you guys to either stay in for as long as you want to,
Yeah.
or if you want to leave, that
Mhm.
is also fine. You're not obliged to stay in there. Um, we as midwives stay in there for up to 6 weeks, sort of after that last baby has been born. I tend to stay in a bit longer, but that's just because I enjoy watching all the baby
Mm.
pictures and watching you guys all meet up. But it's so lovely. What we do is once the last baby's born, we arrange a postnatal meetup. So we went to, did we go to the pub, Laura?
Where is it? Dobbies.
We went to
Dobbies? Garden Centre. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we went to Dobbies. But sometimes it's we go to the pub and just
Hmm.
sit up there, have a drink together. But yeah, we meet up and we just all chat about experiences, how you're getting on, how you're finding things. And it's really nice just to see everybody in that sort of that
Yeah.
new parent sort of mode and that parent bubble. And it's really, really lovely.
I
And
would actually say, sorry to cut you there, just from a person going, that is what is so valuable because, if I speak about my experience, I don't know anybody from this area. We moved from Dartford. So to be able to connect to new parents has been a lifeline, really, because we're all now meeting at least once a week. We
yeah,
meet without fail once a week. Like
oh,
if it's not,
that's so
how
nice.
lovely is that? So a
Yeah.
lot of us go to the baby sensory classes together. We now meet up and go for coffee. I've put a text in. I'm meeting some of the girls this Friday. Some of them are meeting on Saturday. So like, how great is that you've now got a space that you can feel connected and people understand what you're going through because you're all going through similar milestones. And what I've found, if say one of the mums has gone through something 3 weeks in advance, I know like by the time I've got to go through it, I'm going to message her and go, how did you work that one out? How did you get through it? So it's so helpful.
And we know that friends are so valuable, but
Mm,
friends that have babies and are going
yeah.
through the journey with you are on another level. I was fortunate enough that my sister-in-law, we had our babies at about 11 weeks apart. So slightly
Wow.
bigger gap, but
Mm,
yeah, everything I was going through with my little one, I'd message her and
mm,
go, oh, did you have this with your little
yeah.
help?
Mm, yeah.
It's so valuable and it's so nice to feel reassured that
Mm,
your baby isn't different. Your baby is exactly the same, and everybody goes through the exact same things at different periods. So it's so
yeah.
nice to feel reassured because some days
Mm,
you may feel like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? But then
yeah.
someone will say, oh, I had that a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, fine, and you think, okay, okay, it's all right
Yeah.
then. So it is
Yeah.
so valuable to be surrounded with people that have either had children or are also sort of
Yeah.
yeah in the process of having them. But yeah, that's why I hang around in the group
Mm,
chat a bit longer because I do like to see you guys meeting up and
mm,
know that you've got each other as well because it
mm,
can be a daunting experience. Definitely.
yeah. And I think I've even messaged you a few times, been like, Megan, help me. And literally just thinking I've got a midwife that I can message has been really, really helpful. I'm sure you wouldn't want to advocate that and say, everyone message me, because then you'll be inundated. But even just to direct me into the right area or right number or whatever I needed, it is so supportive. So where do people find you? If they want to access you, if they want to, find out a bit more about what you do, how can they find you?
We are on social media, so we're obviously Pregnancy to Parenthood now. So it's Pregnancy to Parenthood UK on
Mhm.
Instagram and on Facebook, and then obviously you can Google search us as well. So just
Yeah.
Pregnancy. As I said, because we are rebranding, it might be
Mhm.
that Birth to Beyond might sort of crop up instead of. We are the same thing. Just keep an
Okay.
eye on the logo that I've got on
Okay.
here, and
Yeah.
it's the same company. We're just in the process
Mm.
of rebranding. But yeah, I mean, I chose to do Bump Birth and Beyond or Pregnancy to Parenthood out of sort of as a result of COVID, really. So out when we were seeing women and partners coming through the hospitals during the COVID period, when a lot of the antenatal education was sort of suspended or it was on Zoom
Mm.
instead of face to face, we were seeing more and more families coming in with no idea. I was
Mm.
having families coming in for induction. I would go in and say, "Oh, hi, you're here for induction," and they'd be like, "Are we? Okay, what does that
Mm.
mean?" And they would have no idea on the
It's
process.
awful.
It's
Yeah.
just it's awful for them, because they're
That's what I mean.
not getting their choices,
Yeah.
and the reality is in the hospitals, we are short-staffed,
Mm.
we are busy, the hospitals are very busy. And I would love to sit in your room and do
Mm.
a 5-week antenatal
Mm.
in the space of an hour. But the reality is, obviously,
No.
there's so much to cover, as you know.
Mm.
Um, we just don't have the time to do that in the hospitals. Hence why
Mm.
we do why I do what I do, because
Mm.
it's, antenatal education is such a valuable aspect of pregnancy. And yeah,
Mm.
just like I say, seeing the couples coming in not knowing very much about
Yeah.
what to expect at all, that's what sort of made me sort of branch out to
Mm.
pregnancy to parenthood and think, actually, I think I want to do this. This is a part of
Mm.
my job that I love, and I'm unable to do it sort of in
Mm.
the hospital, so that's why I do it separately. But
Love that.
yeah, it's nice seeing you guys leave the
Mm.
course and having learned what
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And obviously afterwards, when I've met up with you guys and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm so glad you told us that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Good
And
to be in the know.
it's
It
so
is.
it's so reassuring to know that I've
Mm.
hopefully sort of made an impact on your experience just by
Yeah.
you all. Yeah, definitely.
Mm. Oh, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on today's podcast. It's so refreshing to hear from a midwife and to talk all things baby related and antenatal. And I think that there are a lot of people out there that would be really self-critical, quite hard on themselves, thinking that they need to know it all. And actually, I would argue that a lot of us, we're just muddling through. We're asking someone, oh, what happened when this happened to your baby, and what do I do now? And we don't need to have it all together. It's just about, taking one step forward, isn't it? And like you said, reaching out for help or accepting help if you need it. So if there is anyone on listening right now and they are struggling with being a new parent, what would you say to them?
I would say, depending on what sort of
Mm.
period you're at, obviously, if you've still got a community midwife that
Mm-hmm.
is visiting or in contact with you, I would say have a chat with them. Health visitors are also really, really good. I mean, Laura, you might remember from when
Yeah.
you met your health visitor, they
Yeah.
do question your mental health. They do
Yeah. They
um,
do. Yeah.
discuss it with you, and they make it feel incredibly normal, because it is incredibly normal to have days, especially in the early days, where you're thinking, I'm not sure if I can do this. This is really hard
Mm.
and I'm really
Mm.
tired. And it is completely normal. So definitely speak to sort of your community midwife, sorry, and your health visitor if you've still got contact with them.
Yeah.
I'd also say that there's a lot of advice and support out there online as well. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Pandas Foundation is really good for discussing
Okay.
postnatal depression and
Yeah.
sort of changes in that postnatal period. You've got Mind as well. Mind is really
Mm-hmm.
good. It talks about postnatal depression.
Okay.
Icon is one for supporting new parents, the same as Lullaby Trust. I share a lot of
Okay. Yeah.
social
Really
media.
good stuff that you share on your Instagram about that. There are loads of things that you share that I'll click on from Lullaby Trust. Really good stuff.
It is, and I
Yeah.
put their information in our goodie bags that I give out on
Yes, you do.
live as well. So about safe sleeping and things like that.
Mm.
And Tommy's is really good as well for
Yeah.
support.
Mm.
I would say make sure like I say, you use your friends, use your support network
Mm.
as well, because it is completely normal to have days like
Mm.
that.
Mm.
And your partner. So
Yeah.
don't be embarrassed or afraid to talk
Mm.
about how you're feeling, because
Mm.
they may be feeling a similar way. It's quite
True.
daunting as well. So use each other, bounce off each other.
Mm.
And obviously, if you feel you are concerned about your mental health,
Mm.
then speak to your GP sort of sooner rather
Mm.
than later, and see what sort of options are available in more of your local area. So
Mm.
in terms
I
of
love that.
sessions. One thing to add is the hospitals do tend to have like a birth after thoughts, it's called, service. So if you do experience any form of
Mm.
trauma, or you feel a bit traumatized by
Yeah.
your labor birth experience, it might be that you did end up with a really sort of emergency categorized C-section perhaps,
Mm.
or it might just be that everything happened ever so quickly and you weren't able to
Mm.
bit and you feel quite traumatized. Speak to your community midwives or even the hospitals directly, because they do have sort of a program or a kind of counseling service that can go back through your notes and really sort of debrief you on your experience
Mm.
happened.
Wow. How good is that service?
It
Wow.
is.
And do you know what? I bet a lot of people don't know about that.
No, and
Mm.
where I currently work now, we get a lot of feedback from it.
Mhm.
So It's just a good opportunity to just sit down with a midwife,
Yeah,
health professional, go through your notes and say this happened
right.
because, and then a lot of people sort of not leave having a better understanding
Yeah.
about what happened, then helps them sort of emotionally as
Mm. A lot of the time we just need to be walked through it. So how do people access that then? Do they have to talk to the community midwife team to then, yeah.
Yeah, so where I currently work now, we do give out a leaflet in your discharge paperwork. I'm not sure about Medway
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm,
other hospitals, but yeah, do speak to your community midwife. I'm sure
mm-hmm,
all hospitals have a similar service as what we do. But yeah, it is something that we get really good feedback from. Just like I say, gives everyone an opportunity just to talk about their
yeah.
experience and feel listened to and
Mm.
heard and debriefed, really.
Yeah. Well, Megan, you've been amazing. I know you would be. I know you'd be amazing. But do you know what? You sold yourself short a little bit when it came to your classes. Do you know what you didn't talk about?
What was
Your
that?
snacks.
Ah,
You didn't say that you provide the snacks, Megan,
I
and
do.
that could entice people.
I contradict myself a little bit, don't I? Because I talk about how important it is to eat
I
healthily,
know. And
and I
then you bring
provide
like,
chocolate. So I do
yeah,
provide chocolate, and I do provide hot drinks as well.
yes, you
So
do. That's
and
very important.
you get a goodie bag on week 5 as well,
That's
full
what I
of these
mean. So
things.
you get knowledge, you get your belly full, and you also get a goodie bag. What could be better? But thank you so much, Megan. Thank you for coming on. What I will do, everybody, on the show notes, I'll add all of the services, Megan, that you've mentioned and any resources that people can look back on. But yeah, you've been a great guest. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
For having me.
You are very welcome. Bye.